The topic I want to talk to you about is storm dates. I also want to talk to you about the various types of weather reports we use. So if you've gone in to a business and you've inspected the roof, you've found damage, you're getting ready to present the contract to the customer. Maybe you've done some digging and vetting this deal and you've pulled a weather report, hopefully, through Jonathan, and you're looking at that weather report. You're also looking at the policy. How do you know which date to choose to recommend the customer files the claim on? There's not a simple answer to this question. Let me give you some information to use. And even still, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. So you'll need to talk with your manager if you have a complicated without a clear date. Having said that, keep in mind, weather reports are not a buffet. You can't go and pick and choose which one works best for what you're using within reason. Let me give you an example. Say you go in, you pull a weather report, and there are 50 storm dates within the last 2 years, okay? That's probably an exaggeration, but let's just use that. Most of those dates are probably going to be very small hail. What type of roof are you looking at? Generally speaking, ideally for a metal roof, we want at least 0.75 inch hail. Now, that's not a complete hard and fast rule. That's ideal. Can we get by with 0.5 inch hail? Maybe. Do we need 2.5 inch hail? Possibly, if we have a cosmetic waiver. These are things to keep in mind. You want to look for the most significant storm that occurred most recently. Now, why do I say that? And what do I mean by most significant storm? If you have a hailstorm with 1/2 inch or ideally 3/4 inch hail, that's really probably the very bare minimum that we can consider a realistic hailstorm. Ideally, in a perfect world, let's look for something more like 1.25 or 1.5 inch hail. That's really the realm that we want to work within. That's probably what it's going to take to do some significant damage to that metal roof. Now, you've got a white roof like a TPO or PVC. You're not going to be looking for this. You're going to be looking for more like 1.75 inch hail. Again, storm reports are not buffets, so you can't pick and choose. Whenever we're looking at a storm report and storm dates and trying to select the most feasible date, you need to look at a few different things. The radius around where that hail occurred. What is the likelihood percentage that that hail occurred? These are numbers that are all specific and on your reports from Jonathan. If you don't know how to click on that storm and properly look at all of those numbers, please talk to your manager or me. Let's look through one together. But if you're looking at a storm, you really want to be at least in this range. And this range is better if you're working with a white roof, but anything in this range is going to be considered a significant storm. Generally speaking, you want to use the most recent storm. Now, this is not because they're going to have a statute limitation that occurs quickly. Usually we want to use the most significant storm because if we go to this previous carrier and say, well, this didn't happen on this storm date, this happened 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago on your storm date, they're going to say, I don't think so. Not our problem. That was the most recent storm. They're going to deny it. Then we're going to have to go after the most recent carrier anyway. But another thing to keep in mind, we want to try to correlate the size hits with what size the hail is. And generally speaking, this is a very rough estimate, the hail hit penetration or indentation on the roof will be about half the size of the hail. So if you had 1 inch hail, you're looking at about 0.5 inch indentation. That's just a general rule of thumb. Now, usually on a lot of the roofs we get on, there are probably a multitude of storms that have hit that roof. So you may see some small hail, you may see some large hail. Again, we have to go and do some forensics. We have to go in and really look at this. How far away was that storm? How recent did it occur? Go to the newest part of the roof first. Has anything been replaced? Because guess what? We really can't date hail. The only way we can date it is if there has been something replaced, maybe a new HVAC unit. I'll give you an example. I had a roof that was a mod bit roof, absolutely older than God, had been there forever, had been beat to death, tons of displaced granules from hail, years and years and years. All the HVAC units had hail on them as well. The only problem, there was a new HVAC unit put in place 3 years ago. Guess which HVAC unit did not have hail? The most recent one. So we were not within our statute of limitations on that policy, did not get to make a successful claim simply because that HVAC had been replaced. So yes, that probably did not occur on the most recent carrier's watch. Had another roof where we had the customer had changed carriers. And think about it, commercial carriers, commercial policies change more frequently than residential. So they had changed carriers about 1.5 years prior to the storm. So we had one storm date in 19, and we had another storm date in, I think, 17. And in Arkansas, we have this beautiful 5-year statute on a lot of policies. Well, we had that in place. So it could have fell on either carrier's watch. We filed with the most recent storm because it was about the same size hail. I think it was 2-inch hail. We filed with the most recent storm because that was definitely a significant storm event. Now, when I'm talking about a significant storm event, all of the carriers had claims from that storm, whether through residential, autos, or commercial. 2-inch hail, they're going to have claims. That is going to be a significant marker for that carrier. They're going to know that storm occurred. So we filed with that storm date. They came back and said, no, we believe this happened on the previous carrier, so you're going to need to go back to them. They called out engineers. We brought in our engineer. They wrote their reports. So guess what we did? We used the insurance carrier from the most recent carrier, their report saying that they thought the storm occurred on the previous carrier on that date, and the rationale as to why against the previous carrier. And we got the roof. We got it replaced. So that's what can occur. Now, if you have a weather report that just doesn't make sense, maybe it says the weather reports that we pull first are very generalized. They are not nearly as specific as the 2 other types of weather reports that we can pull. We don't pull them on every roof, but if you've got some gray area as to which storm date you think you might need to use, or you think you might run into difficulty with the insurance carrier, you don't want any surprises, talk with Jonathan. He can pull the other 2 storm reports and go ahead and have that in your arsenal so that you can be prepared and use that to make the best judgment call on which storm date you choose.